Hello, good evening to UK Crime Book Club. And this evening, I'm delighted to be joined by author Ruth Kelly, and she's going to be talking to us this evening about everything to do with her book, The Escape. So, yeah, we can match it. So The Escape is set around a couple, Adele and Jack, and Adele is a vlogger. She has her own YouTube channel, and one day she decides that she has this dream of owning a historical chateau, and she wants to find someone who's going to help her buy this chateau, which, you know, yeah, everybody does, of course. But then it takes a turn, and a mysterious benefactor comes forward and offers to buy the chateau for them. But that's just really the beginning of the book, isn't it, Ruth?
Yes, it's just the beginning, yeah. Adele is a wannabe YouTuber, and she has been watching this trend, how her friends and peers on YouTube are trying the GoFundMe route to acquire their dreams, whether it be, you know, a renovation project, if it be a cup of coffee, which is an actual trend on YouTube, which is why I picked up on it. There seems to be no limit to what people can ask for now, and that's what I picked up on, and that's how Adele sees the only way to get her dream chateau, because she is, you know, it costs over €1 million. There's absolutely no way that her and her partner Jack are going to be able to afford it otherwise. So they put up this video and they hope for the best. Actually, she puts it up without consulting her partner, so that doesn't go down too well. And then, yeah, it goes out, it goes viral, which she doesn't expect, because it gets a really nasty backlash from people saying, well, we all want a chateau, you know, if we can afford it. And then that's when you know, she didn't expect this. And then a mystery benefactor steps on board and sort of feels for her plight, that she's put in this message in this YouTube video. She talks about all the things that she wants to change in her life. And he says, I really feel for you. Sorry, she. The mystery benefactor says, I really feel for you. And I'd like to buy it for you as a gift. But as we all know, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And Adele is so desperate to get to France, because not only does she love this building, she also wants to save her relationship. It's, you know, it's not going too great. She wants to have children. She thinks this is going to be the place that she can start over, as a lot of people who want a second home or move abroad might want to. And she just accepts this offer and the terms and conditions were which are quite strange, for this dream, in exchange for this dream that she's always wanted. And that's really the start of it. I haven't given away much there. And then things start to really unravel, and it's told in the point of view of Adele, the vlogger, in her actual vlog voice, in her inner thoughts, which contrast to the vlog voice. And her older sister, Erin, a much more responsible character who's quite fed up with her younger sister for her whimsical ways, and wants to, has gone to France because she's not answering her messages. Everything's gone quite quiet on the French front. And it's after New Year's now, and she needs to get her sister home for their mum, who's not well. And so she goes on this mission in a very snowy situation. It's very atmospheric, to try and find her. And the chapters of the older sister are in complete contrast to the younger sister, who you're seeing a chateau in summer where it's really like beautiful and nice. And when the older sister arrives, it's wintry and it's cold and it's really, really spooky, and it's empty and it's creepy, and we're really scared.
Yeah, no, it is really scary. I mean, it's one of those books for which we were talking about just before we came on, that, you know, it's a very difficult book to talk about because you don't want to give away spoilers. But yeah, the some of the chateau scenes are really creepy for lots of reasons.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah, well, you definitely got it. So the story of Adele and Jack and then Erin, what was the sort of inspiration for the book?
Well, it was a whole mixture of different things, because I'm a journalist, or former journalist, and I look at trends. I think, you know, when I my previous book, The Villa, was also a trend about reality TV, and I saw the trend going there and the way that it was going a bit south. And I noticed this because I watch a lot of YouTube when I should be writing all sorts of things, just to like waste time. And I noticed this trend for this GoFundMe, a new life. And I've even noticed, like, with the writers do it, sort of, if you GoFundMe, help me write my book, I'll create a character in your name. You know, there's just all these different trade-offs are going on. And then that got me thinking about, what is the real trade-off when someone funds something and it seems like it's a gift, but it's not really a gift. And who owes who in the end? So that's one side of it that got me thinking about it. The other side is, I don't have a sister, and I have a brother, and I've always wondered what it would be like to have a sister, and I really wanted to create this relationship between these sisters, and bring it out. And, you know, they're sort of bickering, but they love each other. You see what you begin the book with Adele, and she seems highly irritating, this younger sister doing this vlog, but actually her character develops, and the older sister's, who's quite judgmental, her character develops too. And you think, well, neither of them has the ideal life, and neither of them is maybe likable in some ways. I think that, you know, it's quite a bit of feedback I've got on that. But I think, so that's the sister side of things. France, because I have gone to France for many, many years. I've seen every different part of France and the different sides to it. I knew that I wanted to do it in the countryside in France. I think it can be quite creepy in winter. I've been in winter in France many times, and I've seen a stark contrast to where I grew up in Somerset, which is the countryside as well, but it's really different. It's not as well, it's not so spread out as France, for starters. You go on a country lane and you're bound to find another village within seconds, where it's not the same in France. It seems really barren and creepy, and then God, I feel like I'm talking at myself. But then you have the craze for renovation projects and TV shows and Escape to the Chateau. I know there's a massive draw in it. So many British people want to buy chateaus because you can buy them relatively cheaply in comparison to a place in England. Like, you could probably, 300,000 euros. Like, it's not unreasonable that you could get a place in France. I mean, it's a money pit, but there's there's this dream that you can do it. And I think I was jumping on that trend. That might be all the trends I could think of right now.
Because I thought of the Escape to the Chateau when I was reading it, and I was thinking, oh, I wonder whether, and then I thought, no,
it definitely was
like that. When you get into but I did think, oh, and actually something else that you touched on briefly in that was about, so I was going to ask you, because the characters are really well developed, and you begin to know them. And when I started reading the book, I really didn't like Erin, but actually by the time I got to the end of the book, my opinion had changed. And I think that's the same with, there's lots of characters, Adele, and there's some that don't fare so well, but it's really interesting. Is that a part of the writing process that you really like, the sort of, the developing the characters?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I find character development probably one of the hardest things to do when you write, to make your characters believable and make the dialogue sound good. And I definitely had in my mind that I wanted these characters not to be clear cut, and what you thought at the beginning, i.e. Adele was highly irritating, and Erin sounded a bit bitter and begrudging of her life, and then they find through the course of what happens in this book, they develop and they change, and you see them a bit differently, and their lives aren't. And I think that's the whole whole theme of the book that, you know, on vlogs and social media, you project your life in a certain way, and it's just a snapshot. It's not really what it's like, and that's kind of mimicked in these character developments where you see these characters at the start and they're offering a portrayal of their life, but as it goes on, you see that it's not quite what you think. And certainly young, like Adele, who thinks, you know, she's doing these happy-go-lucky vlogs, oh, everything's like lovely, amazing, I'm so happy, and then like that vlog shuts down, and then you see her real life, and she's becoming increasingly lonely in this world that she thought would be amazing.
I think it is really interesting and also really dark, actually. I think one thing that I really sort of felt was that you really sort of looked at the darkness of celebrity life. And you know, I have social media, and I do videos on here, but I don't do a vlog or anything. But and actually I thought, I don't know if I want to after reading, because I just felt like actually you do really sort of bare your soul, even if it's not your real soul, do you? You know, even if it's a portrayal of your life that you want to. Was that sort of an interest for you? Did you sort of think that people start off maybe quite innocently doing it and end up sort of telling these people that they have no idea who's out there watching their dreams and then as she finds out, it can really turn on you, and people are, you know, the trolling and stuff can be vile.
I think there is that was a massive element of it, the trolling and how nasty people, and they can hide behind their keyboard. You know, they don't have to put a face to their name, so they have this hidden power, and they think, and they sort of wield it around, and they think that they can attack you. And if you take it personally, as Adele does, she does start to crumble and become more vulnerable through this exposure that she's doing. And I think you know, if you do, I mean, you've heard lots of stories where people have videoed their life, filmed it, and then put it up there, and then thieves have broken into their house because they can see the access points in the house. They can, they've now drawn a whole map out of where, you know, they can get in and get out. They've, you've told them that you're going on holiday. Oh, what do you know? They're breaking into your house while you've just admitted that you're on holiday. And I think this is a really major thing, and that's happening at the moment. Countless celebrities have been burgled because of it. I think as soon as you expose your life to complete strangers, you're making yourself vulnerable. So that was another side of it, to crank up the tension and the threats of being not only videoing your life and showing it to complete strangers, but also being in a totally isolated place. And strangers could get to you easily. And so I think it was some, and also I think lots of celebrities are putting their, you know, there never used to be Instagram or YouTube. And you could never, if you really were a fan of a celebrity, and people get quite obsessed with celebrities, and I address it in the book, Celebrity Worship Syndrome. People can get really attached to these lives because they're sort of often escape from their own life. And but you can never really access them. The best you could do is maybe an interview on a TV show, a chat show, but that was it. And now the celebrities are having Instagrams, and they're sort of offering this almost personal connection to their fans. And they're not looking into it when they're doing it. They're just thinking, oh, I'm, you know, showing myself out on a run or at the gym or whatever. But the fans feel that they've been given access in a way that they haven't before, and they can get closer to them. They can work out, and they become armchair detectives, and they can start thinking about, oh, I wonder what, you know, where they eat, what they do. Maybe I can be like them too, you know, if I do the things that they do. And it encourages that sort of obsessiveness in people if you are inclined that way, I would say. So I think it's a really dangerous thing.
I think so, yeah. And I think like that jealousy aspect as well, isn't it? I think Adele gets that, doesn't she? Is like the sort of the jealousy of like, well, why have you got this perfect life? And, you know, why have you got this wonderful house and I don't have it? And that can be dangerous as well, can't it? Because it's like you're sort of showing off in a way of what you've got. And so if someone takes that the wrong way, then it can become a sort of a weapon against you as well.
And adding to that, I think people think if you put your life up, on social media, you're fair game.
Mm.
There's this sort of like, well, you know, you're inviting it into your life because you don't have to do it, and you know, well, and people don't feel sorry for you; they feel less sorry for you if something bad happens because they think you are asking for it. I think there's this, you know, there's this streak that some people have that it's just nasty, and they just they don't want to see people happy or enjoying life because they might be suffering internally.
Definitely. Did you what was the research that you carried out for the book? Did you spend a lot of time on social media and YouTube?
So I do watch a lot of YouTube because I'm a big procrastinator when it comes to getting my works done in the day. And it's a way of sort of like relieving the stress sometimes. And I pick up on patterns, and so there was a lot of, you know, I'd already done the YouTube watching, and I'd seen, I mean, there's small things. So the book opens with the very first chapter is with Adele doing a YouTube video, and she's crying. And I'd seen a trend on countless YouTubers who doing this now. It starts off as like one person does it, and they just all copy each other. And it's like, they show themselves crying and showing how upset they are, saying, well, I'm doing this because you could really know what my life is like, and how I really suffer as well. And, you know, I hope that you can see that it's not all great being a YouTuber. And you just realize that the whole thing is just fake and orchestrated. So these are the small things that I picked up on through my research as such. And then what else did I do? Well, French stuff I kind of knew.
Yeah, you visited there a lot.
I'd visited there a lot, but I did have I wrote about this in a feature. I did I went on a hot air balloon ride, and I was I knew I was gonna write about a chateau, and I knew I was gonna set it in France. But it was when I was on a hot air balloon ride in Burgundy, and I was up high in the sky, and then we were flying over these vineyards, and it was in an area that had quite a lot of old ruins and chateaus. And that's when I suddenly, from above, saw kind of the layout, the sort of chateau that I wanted. So that was definitely inspiration. That was a really nice and, you know, a wonderful experience. So I kind of
that's amazing.
So that was a bit of a research trip. And then what else required research? Well, yeah, I think that, I'm not sure what the other parts weren't research. Just in case you read it and you know, I didn't, you know, I was like just making that up.
Did you was there anything that sort of, because there's quite dark themes in the book, was there anything in your research that sort of led you to involve to sort of bring those themes into the book?
So in the news at that point when I was writing it, there was either the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell, or it was around that time that all that stuff was breaking. And I think that I won't say too much, but that was definitely an influence over it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we won't. Yeah, as we said, we won't go into that too much. But yeah, there's definitely. So this book is definitely a case of be careful what you wish for, isn't it? It's like you said at the beginning. You know, there's no such thing as a free lunch, and she doesn't discover immediately, but there's sort of hints, isn't there, that it's not as perfect as they imagine. I mean, I think Jack really knows from the outset, doesn't he, that he's more of a realist than her, isn't he? He's sort of like, I think he can't believe it, but he also is more apprehensive about what they're letting themselves in for.
Yeah, when the lawyer comes round with the contract at the very start, and she hurries them through it so they won't read it too carefully. Jack, her partner, is definitely, you know, actually lays the message of and the theme of the book. Come on, what's the catch? And so that's sort of hammered home right from the beginning of the book, because there's obviously going to be a catch. And then small things start to creep through these catches, and like a strange gardener showing up.
Yeah, he's a bit more, yeah.
He doesn't really
creepy,
act like a gardener that much. And what's he doing loitering around the premises? And that wasn't very clear in the contract. And there's just a series of things that keep coming into the storyline that start to hint that these there is a catch, and then it builds up to what the catch is, and that's kind of the big thing of the book.
Yeah.
Why they gave away a chateau for free.
I mean, it is very, very dark in places, isn't it? And I quite like a book that surprises me, and although the cover is, you know, it's atmospheric, isn't it? It's got that sort of element of there's something not quite right here, but not to the extreme that we go in. And I was really interested in how because once it starts, the tension starts to ramp up. It's fairly relentless, isn't it? It must have been exhausting to write it, or how did you sort of manage to sort of keep that, you know, that tension and the suspense?
I don't think it's something to do with my style. I did it with The Villa as well. I think it was quite, I wrote these pacey books. It's just these breathless, sort of slightly breathless style that sort of makes it's, I mean, I want you to reach the end. My aim is that you reach the end of a chapter and you're like, what next? I got to keep reading. I got
that's what it was like.
You've got to be kidding. Like, and that is completely deliberate. I wanted that. I want this addictive quality that you just need to have one more chapter. You got to stay at one, you know, that half an hour later at night. And what did you? How did I come up with the darkness? What was the?
Well, just sort of like that, sort of the darkness and the suspense, and you know, the sort of and yeah. So you said about you'd had inspiration from the news, but it was quite relentless. The pace was, you know, I mean, not in a bad way, because I don't think you can have, you know, it can't be too fast paced in my eyes. But yeah, I just wondered for you, how it exhausting to write, or it is just your style, and that's
no, it's my style. I think I really like it. I've even when I was doing ghostwriting, I think my books have always been described as really page turnery. Yeah, and I don't know how I don't know what makes it like that. I think it's I mean, there's twists in it, but I don't think it's overly twisty that you're thinking, oh my goodness, there's another twist. It's not that makes it pacey. I do plan my books really thoroughly.
Do you? Yeah, you are a planner.
I am a planner. So I kind of worked out that there was going to be something that threw you in the middle of the book. Yeah. I knew that. And I also I knew roughly what was going to happen. I think at the second half, I was more sort of making it up as I went along, but that was just, I've realized that if I plan it too thoroughly, it becomes boring when you write, because you're not surprising yourself with the writing. So you're just sort of like, oh God, I've already done that 20 times in my head. I'm not really into the scene anymore. So leaving that sort of level of surprise keeps my writing fresh. Yeah, I didn't plan. I mean, there was quite a lot of, when it gets really a bit nastier towards the end, I didn't plan it probably, but I just thought, oh, this could definitely be heading that way when I was writing it. And I like surprising people. So I think a lot of the feedback from this book, like I've had a lot of feedback, and lots of people have said, I had no idea where it was going. I had lots of theories, but it just did not turn out how it turned out, and it completely blew me. And I was like, well, that's great. I'm glad.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's was my experience as well. And I really like that. I want a book to be able to surprise me, and not, because I don't want to pick up, you know, I don't want to pick up the same book every time that I read a book. I want to be able to be surprised by, and I'd not read anything like this, you know, that sort of really, I was like literally turning the pages and like thinking,
great.
And I didn't expect it. I think there was things in it that I thought, whoa, you know, like there's real like whoa moments in the book where, you know, you're like, is that happening? And also I think it's that you don't know who to trust. I think, you know, that's what makes the tension as well, is that, you know, when Erin goes to look for her sister and Jack, she has no idea what she's walking into. And she's leaves herself very vulnerable, doesn't she? And without actually knowing what, you know, what she's going to do. So I think I really liked that, because I think the chateau, you said the chateau was very atmospheric, and I really liked Erin as a character. But did you always know when you started that you were going to write it from multiple perspectives? So you said you had, you know, the vlogger's voice of Adele, so that's her, like, you know, her persona, and then you've got the real sort of thoughts of Adele, what's going on, and then you've got Erin. Was that, and did you write it together, or did you write them as individuals?
I wrote them one chapter after the other, and I always knew that it was going to be two sisters telling the story at a different timeline, one 6 months earlier. I don't know if I'd worked out the time, but I knew it was going to be a difference between one was seeing the chateau from arriving and all the dreams, you know, how it could be wonderful. It's summer, it's nice. I wanted to show the contrast in the weather. Weather was a really big part of this book, the winter, and how it really, you know, I really wanted to ramp up the chill factor. I think that was one of the first things I thought of. I want to set this book in the dead of winter when it's really creepy. And so I planned that. I knew that, and I think the thing I was most excited about was when the timelines cross. So midway through the book, the older sister is looking for the younger sister, and at some point their timeline has to cross. And I was totally fixed on that from the word go, and I was really interested in how I would write that. I don't think you need to, you know, sometimes if you have lots of points of view, it can get quite confusing, and the characters can get confusing. And I think by just having a pair of sisters, you had these two distinct voices, and you got to know them both. And then the vlog was a third voice of the same person, but just a different expression of that person, a fake expression of that person.
Yeah, no, I really liked that, because I think that definitely showed the sort of, I guess, you know, that sort of mask of the person that you see on YouTube or on TikTok or whatever, you know, whatever videos sort of channel it is on, and then the reality of what's behind that and what is actually really happening. But she still puts the brave face on and goes on and does, you know, the things that she needs to do, because that's what she needs to do. And it's also, I think, really interesting was it's almost becomes obsessive, doesn't it, for her? She's like obsessed with finding the next things, because I guess that's the thing, is if you want people to be watching you all the time, you've got to have, you know, that video is only like a day, maybe, if you're lucky. You know, maybe even only, I don't know how many. I remember reading a thing about Twitter once where they said that I think most people only read your tweet for 3 seconds or something. Yeah, it's something like, unless it goes viral. And so it's so I found that really interesting, is that the time that's invested, you know, to get to that point where you've got thousands of followers, it's quite a big what's the word, you know, like a God, I can't think of the word, investment, I guess. In your time, but also in what you're giving, isn't it?
I think Adele, she wants to grow her following, because through that she'll generate some money. She doesn't get, I should say that she doesn't get money to run the chateau.
No.
She gets given the chateau, but to actual, you know, and a little bit of help to start. So she knows that by creating a following on YouTube, she'll, you know, by showing her life out there, she'll be able to carry on their life out there. And I think it does show the pressure for content. I mean, how do you keep things fresh? How do you keep your viewers interested? So she goes searching for things to create content, and through this searching, she discovers things that are part of the unraveling. So yeah, it is all linked into this, this constant need for creating content, the pressure of it, the way that vloggers can and just social media people can be judged all the time through it, how it can actually start to get to you, this pressure plus the negative feedback, the trolling. So that sort of whole social media side is a chunk of the book. And then you have the other side, which is just almost like this whole other sub story to it. The second world that it brings out this this through her YouTubing. And then you asked me earlier about research. Another big part of the book is this hostile local community. And I've been to some quite remote places in France where, you know, you stumble across this small village stroke town and nobody really, you know, they probably could speak English but they just don't want to, and that's okay, you know, like you are in France, but you kind of feel like you've been iced out, and everything just feels really foreign. And the local community there's a small village not very far from the chateau, and at first they seem kind of nice, and then then when the older sister Erin arrives, they seem really hostile, and that's a big part of the book. Like, why are they so hostile? What are they what secrets are they guarding?
I think that adds to the isolation of her, doesn't it, as well? So you've got like that sort of the atmosphere of the winter, the deserted sort of, you know, chateau, which, you know, her sister's not there. She's desperately trying to find out more information about where she might be, and she literally at every turn is just blanked, isn't she? And you can feel that for her. You're just like, oh, that must be so, you know, just frustrating. And also, you know, you must sort of question, because I think she does question herself, doesn't she? Like, well, what's she doing? Where is she? You know, because in the beginning, I think she just sort of thinks that she's carrying on with her life, doesn't she? And there's nothing sinister happening. But as we find out, there are sinister things afoot, which we're not going to say any more about because we don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't read it.
I also, another big thing that I really wanted to do in this book was I'm really intrigued by stories of missing people missing rather than you outright know that they're dead. And I think with The Villa, my book begins with someone who's dead by the pool right at the start of the book in this reality TV show. And this, I just thought this that when someone's missing, it opens up a whole new dynamic to exploring the storyline, because, you know, there's all different ways that this book can go. You don't know if they're dead. Maybe they are dead. If they're missing, where are they? How are they going to find them? And I just love that about it. I really love that side of it. And it's made me just love writing stories about missing people. I think it's fascinating.
It does give you so many more options, isn't it? Because I mean, if you're dead, you're dead, you know. But if you're missing, you know, you could have been, you know, you could have been taken away, you could be dead, you could not be, you know, there's so many, you know, you might have run away, you know, there's so many different sort of scenarios that could to be why you're missing. And I think that sort of really added as well to because you don't know.
You don't know. You have no idea what's happened.
So what's been, because this is you said about your first book, The Villa, this is your second book. Was this one more difficult to write? Was it the second book harder or easier? That's easier.
I've bucked the trend. I know. I really bucked the trend. I can say that I'm writing book 3 and I just help me now. So I think my book 2 is my book 3. I found it really, I don't know why, I think the structure of the book was so easy for me. I saw it so clear cut in my mind that that's what didn't make me hesitate for a second. And for me, I think knowing, putting that work in, knowing how it's going to look really saves the time later on down the line, rather than just starting writing and seeing where it's going to go. So I wrote all in all, plus the edits and everything, in probably about 6 months. I just wrote it. It just went, it just flew. And then, but I wrote it before the villa had come out. So I wasn't writing to the expectations of what people had of the villa already. So I hadn't heard any reviews of the villa. I didn't know what the world thought of my writing.
Yeah.
I was just still in my bubble. So I think that also helps. And I think perhaps sometimes when people say that book 2 is difficult, I'm just like hypothesizing here, but perhaps that first book has come out, it's had a reaction, and they're sort of now not sure, they're sort of half listening to how people might see them, plus write their book. And I think it can make it more difficult. Also
pressure, really, I guess.
Yeah, there's more pressure, and sometimes maybe you think, you start to doubt, maybe you think I only have one book idea or something like that, which is really easy to think something like that. But that's actually not true. If you actually sit down, you can come up with many ideas. I'm sure you just got to give it the time and patience. Like it's there's plenty more than one idea in you.
Definitely. So what's been, I mean, you're relatively new on the writing front. I mean, I know you're a journalist, but for both of your books have come out in quite a sort of short space of time, haven't they? What's been your sort of highlight of the whole sort of becoming a published author?
Getting Richard and Judy book club pick was certainly
that's pretty amazing, isn't it? For us, yeah. And how does that, because you always sort of see, interestingly on social media, you always see sort of the author coming on and saying, I wasn't allowed to say anything. And so how does it work? Do they go to your publishers, and then your sort of publishers sort of tell you, and you're not allowed, you're sworn to secrecy, and then it sort of comes
up? So I got an email from my editor in the morning, and it just was like quite fairly casually dressed up. Like, oh, hey, the hi sort of starts off in the normal friendly way, and then Rich and Judy have picked you for their book club winter pick, and then it just goes. And I just like, what? I was like, what? I just read it again, and I just couldn't quite absorb it. It just seemed actually, it sounds like a cliche, but it actually didn't seem very real. It just was like, what? And that I wrote back in capital letters, what? Is this a joke? And he wrote back, no joke. So I then I had an emotional lag time, which is pretty typically me. I'm not I don't react really quickly to things. I sort of one of these people that might take a couple of days, sometimes and I remember I was driving off into town to work, because I write in cafes. I was going to write in a cafe, and then in the car I just I started crying. I just felt really overwhelmed with emotion. I just felt, wow, this is amazing. This is something I've really dreamed of. Like, it meant a lot to me. It really, really meant a lot. And then you're sworn to secrecy. So it's really frustrating. You can't tell anyone. You want to tell anyone, and like people are saying stuff about the book, and you're like, oh, but if you knew that, then maybe and then you feel like this massive anticipation leading up to the news breaking on the day that the books come out, and you're just like buzzing because you just can't wait for it. And I think I get it sent. That's why I couldn't do an unboxing.
Oh, right.
I did an unboxing. Everyone would see the sticker. But I don't know why a little sticker was hugely exciting, but I saw the sticker on it. And also there's extra content. I had to do extra content for the book.
Right, interesting.
If you pick it up from Smith's, you get book club questions, which were written by me, and I do a whole bit on why I wrote The Escape. And I absolutely loved putting the book club questions together. And I think I felt really thrilled that my book was actually part of a book club where people actually discuss the themes of the book. So I think, I mean, the vlogging side of things was one of the questions. I think they won't mind me saying this, but I did a question. If you were to vlog your life, what parts would you show and what parts wouldn't you show?
Would you not? Oh, that's a really good question.
And I really liked coming up with these questions. It was really fun. But I had 24 hours to do it, write a lot of stuff in 24 hours.
Wow.
So it was like, woo, it was like high octane, getting it all done. And then, and then when it came out, it's just, and then I came to London for a lunch with, my publishers, Pam Mack, my editor, and all the wonderful publicity and people that had worked on it. And and that was really nice coming into the publishing.
That was amazing.
And they put on a thing for me, and it was all really lovely. It was really, really nice. And then seeing it in the shop in London was just, that was great. Yeah,
that must be quite surreal, being, you know, relatively new to writing, to be sort of, to go from, you know, this is your second book. You know, some people never get to that, or not even. I mean, it's amazing. You must be, so proud.
I think it is like it's like a confirmation that you're, you know, writers are always, well, I'm full of self-doubt. Many writers, I'm sure, are as well. You're always questioning whether you can write. That's the big question that goes around your head. Am I actually all right? And it was almost like this, literally this big sticker that you could wear, and you go, okay, well, I got some sort of confirmation, so it's okay. And it gave me a boost of confidence to think, because I think I've been struggling a bit with book 3, and it just thought, well, you know what, it's fine. I've got this behind me. I've got it. And it was really lovely. I think that's what it did. And I did think how massively amazing this is, that I've just started out.
This
has happened. So it's made me sort of even more ambitious for the future. Like, what am I gonna do now? But then I have to say that the counter side of that is this huge pressure. Like, what are you gonna do now? Like, what's your next book gonna be? Like, is it gonna be as good as what, you know? You have to, you've got this side of you,
damn imposter syndrome.
Can I write something as good as the last one? What are people gonna think of it? So it sort of has its downsides as well, because now you feel like you have to live up to this benchmark that's been set. So I think it's a constant, you know what, I think writing is just constant torment, to be honest.
I mean, I think it's really, because obviously you want, you know, people want something like an accolade like that in their career. That's amazing. But I imagine it does give you the pressure, because I guess your books, you know, that you probably do feel that sort of, you know, that pressure that you've done that once. You know, do you need to do it again, or is that okay now? Or, you know, it's just like, I've done it once, that's fine, I don't need to do it again. But I think, I can't remember who I spoke to once before, but saying they were on book like 20 or something, and they said that pressure never goes away. Sorry. because also when people get to write, to know you, to know your style, I guess, do you think you would sort of, is this the genre and the sort of the type of book that you want to carry on writing, or would you ever sort of consider writing something completely different?
I would definitely write something different. I think I would be really interested in writing scripts for a start, for TV or film. I think the more experimental you can be with your writing, the better your writing will probably end up being, because you're just trying different things. And then by trying different things, you'll enhance your writing style. I've definitely got quite a silly side to me. I like being silly and cracking jokes. So I think a rom-com wouldn't be that. You know, I wrote a romance novel quite some time ago, and I did enjoy it. So I would, if I might write under another name and do that. I would write under another name and do rom-com for sure. It's almost like the yin to my yang. I could then like write about really dark stuff, and then I could write about these silly things that would, you know, light and bubbly. I've written, obviously I've written autobiographies for people, for my ghosting. So I've done that side of things. I've written stories, features for newspapers and magazines. But I think scripts would definitely interest me, because I think by doing scripts, you'd probably really develop your dialogue skills, because it would be dialogue heavy, and you would have to make that really sharp. And perhaps by doing that, you might be able to improve the dialogue in your novels. So I think it's good to keep movement there, and the same with I also think that about going to locations and doing research for books. I think by stepping out and actually going to see things, you'll enrich your writing. I think it's really important.
Because you obviously like, looking at psychologically, it's sort of like the psychology behind, the people and, how people tick and things. So I think that makes your book, is that, so I was thinking that I could imagine this as a TV show. Is it something, have you had any sort of, are you allowed to say, or are you, could you see it as a TV show, we'll say then?
I think I could actually, or a film or something like that. Yeah. I think it could translate well for sure. I think also because of the setting.
I was thinking that it was very
the bugginess. Yeah, very visual. I think I write visually because that's what I think really visually. I think I used to really enjoy painting and art, and I used to love doing landscapes and things like that. And I think when I think of a scene, I think visually. And if I'm getting stuck on a scene, I'll think of it visually, like how it would look on the screen, because it suddenly makes everything easier to picture, because you have to be much more accurate about that scene. I can see it. I also think, if you look on Netflix and shows like that, there's this trend for them beginning with these vloggy or shaky cameras, or this sort of this first person narrative. What was that? Clickbait was, that kind of. Yeah, that was on there. And I think this, the vlogs side of it would really lend well to being translated onto the screen with a character who was a vlog star. Yeah. Are you listening, Netflix? Yeah.
Netflix. If anybody's on, you can just get in touch. We could have another sticker on the book, TV adaptation, or Netflix, to go next to the Richard and Judy one.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. What's your sort of, so you're writing book 3 at the moment. Do you have a sort of a writing routine? Are you a sort of a get up in the morning at 5 o'clock and write?
No.
Oh no.
I'm not a great morning person. I need one of those stickers. I'm not a morning person.
You're not a morning person.
Not a morning person. I get up, say that, and then I have a cup of coffee. I love writing with a cup of coffee in the morning, and I work quite well in the morning. I think, I don't know why, I didn't used to actually, but that morning has become a good time. And then I will lull around, I'll try and get what I can done. So I do work to, like currently now, I am on a really tight deadline. I need to have the whole thing edited and written by the end of January. And if I didn't set myself a word limit per day, or map out what I needed to do, I wouldn't get it done. So that I am driven by that.
Yeah.
And if I don't get that done in the morning, then I know that the hours in the, between like 12 and 3 are a bit sluggish, a little bit, as they tend to be normally. And then I suddenly come alive a bit around 5 o'clock again. So I write around that time, 5, 6, 7. But there will come a point in the evening that it's not working either. I wouldn't be able to write really crisp copy last night. I don't think. I know some writers can. And obviously, if you're working, a lot of writers start at 5 in the morning, whatever, because they're working around their family life with, with a kid, and got to fit that all in. So I don't think I'll ever be a morning person, though. I just don't think that's
going to happen. I don't think I will. Don't bother speaking to me before 7 o'clock or after I've had my coffee.
Okay, we're the same.
Do you have a go-to author that you will sort of, if they've got something coming out, you'll be like, I'm buying it regardless of what it's like?
I do really enjoy Lucy Foley's book, and I think I've bought all her. I think I bought all of them. Well, I read the first one, The Hunting Party, and then I just bought the other ones when I just thought, they're coming out. That's the first one that really comes to mind.
So do you like that sort of genre? Do you like the sort of psychological thriller, sort of, you know, the sort of group, sort of, you don't know what's going to happen, sort of that sort of group of people?
Yeah, I like her descriptions. I don't think I'm massively hooked on the idea of having a locked room thriller.
Yeah.
Or, you know, that sort of Agatha Christie-esque type thing. That's not what's catching me about it. I think it's these unreliable characters, and I think you can't quite guess who they are. That's what I like about her style, and her actual writing I really like. And, you know, this locked room idea is actually something that the book that I'm writing at the moment naturally lends itself to that. I'll give you a little teaser. I'm writing about some characters that are in a place high up in the Swiss mountains, and I did a research trip to check it out as well, which was absolutely amazing. But they're 3,200 meters above sea level, and instinctively you think, well, that could easily be a locked room thriller because they're stuck in an isolated situation. So I spent months actually trying to figure out the story plot line to make it different. It's not because I'm against locked room thrillers. No. I didn't want it to be that, because there's been quite a run of that, you know, for some time now. I thought some of my first two books are kind of unusual. They're slightly unusual. And I wanted the third one to be unusual too. So that's what took the longest time, working out how to make it not that sort of style book when you have an isolated, high up on a mountain, trapped in a limited space. How can you not make it like that? And that really threw me, and I had my brain aching. I went over a million different possibilities for this book. My poor editor was like, well, they're all good, they're fine. I need to get it right.
Did you find yourself did you find it was sort of just that it was trying to take you somewhere that you didn't want to go? You know, is it like there was sort of like an easy route where you could have gone and this happened, but you were like, no, I don't want that to happen?
I completely bucked the natural route of it.
Yeah.
I wanted it to, I think I would have done it, but the path of that route didn't seem, it wasn't much of a surprise. I don't think it was going to be a surprise. And I think I wanted the surprise. I wanted the shock of the same sort of similar feeling and shock that you get from the escape. I wanted to have that in my next book. And that definitely took some planning. But I think I've got it. I mean, fingers crossed. But
I think now.
I think it's got a surprise factor to it that but it wasn't easy. And so when everyone talks about, you know, the book's getting more difficult, I certainly think that is true. I do. Yeah, it doesn't get any easier. No. It's just because you've got to keep that surprise. You've got to keep, you know, these ideas fresh. Otherwise you're repeating yourself.
It has to feel right as well. I imagine that you can write something, but it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like that's how you want your book to be. So I guess you could just go, yeah, that'll do. But actually, that won't do.
No, I get really I really have that feeling when it's not feeling right, and I can get really stressed about it too. I'm quite grumpy if it's not going right. I'm like, no, it's not right. And I kind of have to work through it again and again, and it can really bother me. It's like this puzzle. It's like this puzzle that you just need to fix. And you're not going to you can't let it relax until you've worked it out. But obviously, the more that you work at it, like writer's block, you can sometimes just put yourself into a right or pickle. And the best thing to do is probably just to step away and put a bit of distance between you and your passion project, and come back to it maybe in like a day or two, or even a bit longer, and just have a look at it again with fresh eyes, and stop being so emotional about the whole thing.
So have you got some time off over Christmas?
Don't be silly.
No, I was going to say with a deadline on the 31st of January, that's not going to happen.
No. I mean, a little bit, but But this is a deadline I'm setting for myself. You know, if I'm sure it doesn't. That's the thing. You sort of when you're really passionate about something, you end up driving yourself a little bit hard for it, and you could probably take your foot off that accelerator a bit. But when you're sort of in it and you want to get it, and I've got this at the moment, I'm really close to finishing the first draft, and I know that when I finish the first draft, I feel a huge amount of relief, because even though I know that it's gonna take some time to clean it up, I know that it's down. At least it's down on paper, and then it's like you can work from it. But it's this thing that I just need to get it all out, all down, and then I can relax. A writer once said to me, which I think is really beautiful and true, that creating a book is like a watercolor painting. You lay, you might think it's a disaster, like when you first put the first wash of color down, it's just nothing. But if you keep at it and you keep layering it up with these colors, it becomes a picture in the end. And I think that is something that's really important to hang on to, especially if you're like a first-time writer and you feel really despondent about your book and you want to put it in the bottom drawer and never look at it again. You've got so much potential to just keep layering. If you keep layering, keep going at it, just adding, cutting, moving things around, you can actually change it drastically from that very first.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? A lot of people think that you write, when you write that first book, that when you finish your 100,000, 80,000, whatever words, that's it. That it just goes off, and it's not, is it? It's just so much. I mean, I've learned that just from doing this, that actually that's just the beginning, isn't it? Really,
it's just the beginning. And if I was to show you my first draft of The Escape to what actually was printed, it's not massively dramatically different. I mean, I think I was lucky that a lot wasn't changed, but my first I'm doing my redrafts of it, and then my editor gets his hands on it and he makes a whole bunch of suggestions. And when that came through, you have this like, oh my goodness, punch the gut type feeling, like how am I going to untangle this? But I think I may have rewritten a quarter of the book, and that was me wanting it to just be better and be to the highest standard possible. But that version at the end, once a whole lot of it had been rejigged, is really different to what I started with. And so it's really important to bear that in mind. Like there's so many changes you can do. At least you've got a skeleton to work from. Just get it down, write it, create something, and then start editing it and having fun with it and playing with it.
I really like that, the description of the painting, because that just
it's nice.
Feels really that I think about sort of some of the paintings of, I don't know if you've ever watched Fake or Fortune, where they sort of uncover like an old canvas and then they take it to the X-ray, and then underneath there's another picture that was painted over. And so I mean, so that's just sort of like what you said, really. It's like the book can start off as one thing and end up as something completely different, but it's still that same canvas. It's still there, but you've got the ability to change it. That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's not mine. I wish it was mine.
Well, I mean, it was lovely for you to share it with us, because I think there's lots of people who really find that interesting. Thank you so much for joining us. It's nearly 8 o'clock, so the time's gone so quickly. So The Escape, I'll show it again, is out now, and it's got a lovely, it's going that way. It's got a bit, is out now. And it is, if you start reading it, I'll give you a warning, you won't want to put it down until you have finished it. Because it is fast-paced, it's creepy, you don't know what's going to happen next, and be prepared for a shock or two. I think that sums it up quite well, don't you?
There's a few shocks, there's a few shocks for sure.
Thank you for joining us this evening, Ruth. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and we'd love to talk to you when Difficult Book 3 is ready. I'd
love to come back. That'd be great.
To have you back on. Have a lovely Christmas. I hope you do have some time to have a little bit of a relax and a quality street or two. And we look forward to seeing you in the new year.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Thanks to everybody for joining us. Bye.
Bye.